Okay, today we're going to be doing Module 5, Lesson 29. This will be the last lesson of this year. So on Thursday, you're going to be taking the test that goes over all of the first part of Module 5, and then we'll take another test next week that goes over the second part of Module 5, and then we'll just kind of do some fluency practice for the rest of the year. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to say, I can compare fractions with the same numerator using less than, greater than, or equal to signs, and use a model to reason about their size. So you're going to be able to use those three signs to compare fractions that have the same numerator. The materials you need for today are your whiteboard supplies or paper pencil, your Lesson 29 problem set and homework, or you can just use the link to complete them on Classkick. And you'll need a pencil or a device to complete your work on. First, on this slide, we need to partition the first rhombus into 6 and the second one into 12ths, shade 4 units, compare the fractions. So let's take that one step at a time. The first part says whoa, that's a little big. Partition the first rhombus into 6ths, okay? So because it's kind of shaped weird, I'm going to kind of tilt my head a little bit to the left and act like this is a square, because for me it makes it easier to break it up. So I'm going to break it in half, and then I'm going to break it in thirds this way. So there's 2, 4, 6 pieces. And the second one into 12ths. So that's actually, we have 6 pieces over here, and we're going to end with 12 pieces. So really we're doubling it, because 6 times 2 equals 12. So we're doubling the number of pieces that we have. So I'm going to make this one into 6ths again, just like my other one. 2, 4, 6. And then I'm going to double that. So that means I'm going to take each piece and break it in half, or break it into 2 pieces. And then that should give me 12. So let's count that. 4, 8, 12. Okay. So I did that kind of by tilting my head a little bit to the left and looking at the rhombus like it's a square, because it's easier to break it up into equal pieces. Next part, shade in 4 units. So I'm going to come over here and shade 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to come to my other one and also shade 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so over here on the left, I've shaded 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces out of 2, 4, 6. So I've shaded 4 6. Over on my rhombus on the right, I shaded 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces out of 4, 8, 12. So we know that the numerator, or that number on top, is the same in both fractions, and that's because we had to shade the same number of units, which was 4. So now we're going to need to compare the fractions. So I'm going to put them down here next to each other. 4, 6. We need to figure out, is it less than, greater than, or equal to 4 twelfths? Well, when we have numerators that are the same, we need to look at the bottom number. And when the bottom number is smaller, the pieces end up being bigger. So we know that that's going to cover more space. So because this number is smaller, these pieces over here were bigger. If you look at one piece compared to one piece over here, these pieces are bigger. So the smaller the denominator, which is the number on bottom, the bigger the pieces. So that means that 4 of these pieces are going to be bigger than 4 of these pieces. So this fraction is the bigger fraction, so we're going to do a greater than symbol. where the alligator mouth is opened up to the bigger fraction. And if we look up at our picture, we can tell too that this top part and this top part are kind of the same. They cover the same amount of space. But on this one, we also shaded these two. So you can clearly see from our shading that this rhombus has more shaded, so that is the bigger fraction. So 4/6 is greater than 4/12. We compared the fractions. That brings us to our next slide. Next slide is similar, except now we have some rectangles. Partition. Partition the first rectangle into sevenths. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the last line makes piece 6 and 7 at the same time. And the second one into fifths. So I know my fifths are going to be about right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And actually, I think that's a little off. I'm going to make it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So I've partitioned those. Now I need to shade in 3 units. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So on this top rectangle, I've shaded 3 pieces out of 7. On the bottom rectangle, I've shaded 3 pieces out of 5. So now I need to compare the fractions. So I'm going to put them next to each other. 3/7, 3/5. Notice that the numerator is the same in both fractions. So we're looking at the denominator, which is the bottom number. So now we see if the bottom number is bigger, then the pieces are smaller. So over here, the denominator is bigger, which meant that this top rectangle had smaller pieces. So if we have 3 smaller pieces, they're going to take up less space. So we know that this fraction is less than. And even with the less than symbol, the alligator mouth still faces the bigger fraction, which is the 3/5. And we can also see that using our picture, because this whole amount is shaded, but it doesn't take up as much space as this whole amount over here. Okay. So we can see that 3/7 is less than 3/5. So remember, when the top number or the numerator is the same, you have to look at the bottom number. If the bottom number is bigger, the pieces are smaller, so the fraction is smaller. If the bottom number is smaller, then the pieces are bigger, so the fraction is bigger. So it's kind of opposite, so you kind of have to think about it that way. So the denominator, okay, if it's bigger, then that means the fraction is smaller. If the denominator is smaller, then that means the fraction is bigger. So that brings us to our problem set. Remember, as long as you click the link, it puts the code in for you. You just need to put your first name, or last initial. A lot of you are still not putting your last initial or your last name, so please do that because we do have more than one people with the same name. Okay. Number 1, so wants us to label each shaded fraction. Use greater than, less than, or equal to compare. The first one has been done for you, so it did this first one for you. Okay, you can see that they shaded 2 pieces over here and 2 pieces over here, and then they wrote the fraction below, so they shaded 2 pieces out of 6. Over here they shaded 2 pieces out of 3, and then they compared the fraction in the middle. So this side is less than this side. It covers less space, but we also know that because if the denominator is bigger, the fraction is smaller. 6 is bigger than 3, so that means this is smaller. So let's do number 2. In number 2, they've shaded 3 pieces out of 4 pieces altogether. Over here, they've shaded 1, 2, 3 pieces out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So now we compare. Well, I'm going to write that, the way we're used to seeing fraction form. So we can clearly see the bottom numbers. So our bottom numbers are 4 and 8. So 4 is smaller, which means the pieces are bigger, which means the fraction is bigger. So that means that our allocator is going to want to face the bigger fraction. And so in here, we're going to put a greater than symbol. You can also see from the picture that this gray covers more space than the gray that's shaded over here. Number 3. They've shaded 1 piece out of 4. Over here, they've shaded 1 piece out of 2. I'm going to write them in fraction form on the side so it's easy for me to see what the denominator is, because the numerators, or the number on top, is the same. The denominator is the number on bottom. This time the 4 is bigger than the 2. Well, if the 4 is bigger, that means that the fraction is the opposite, which is smaller. So we know that 1/4 is going to be the smaller fraction. It's going to be less than. So we're going to put a less than symbol there. The alligator mouth still faces the bigger fraction, which is the 1/2. Number 4, they've shaded 4 pieces out of 4. Over here, they've shaded 4 pieces out of 6. I'm going to write that in fraction form, 4/4, 4/6. Let's look at just the denominator since the numerators are the same. The 4 is smaller than 6. Smaller means a bigger fraction, so we know that the shape on the left is greater than, and you can also tell the whole shape is shaded, so obviously it has more shaded than this one on the right. So we're going to put a greater than symbol. 4/4 is greater than 4/6. All right, that brings us down to number 5. Partition each number line into the units labeled on the left. I did that part for you, so I already wrote the lines in. Then use the number lines to compare the fractions. Label the number line in fraction form. So because I put the number lines in for you, I want you to go ahead and label the number line. So we can see over here, this says halves. We know halves is 2 pieces. So at this first one, we have 0 pieces out of 2. Then we're at 1 mark out of 2, 2 marks out of 2. Okay? And then we come down to the next one, which is fourths. We know fourths is 4 pieces. We're going to label that 0 fourths, 1 fourth, 2 fourths, 3 fourths, and 4 fourths. Finally, we're at eighths. Eighths we know is 8 pieces. So we start with 0 eighths, 1 eighth, 2 eighths, 3 eighths, 4 eighths, 5 eighths, 6 eighths, 7 eighths, and 8 eighths. You'll notice some of them didn't quite fit in the box. That's okay. If you really want it to fix, you can highlight it and come up here and make it smaller. If you're kind of a visual person like me and you like them to all look the same. Okay, so now we've filled in that whole number line. What we need to do is use this work that we've created up here to compare these fractions down here. So this one is 3 eighths and 3 fourths. Okay, I'm going to change my color. 3 eighths is here. Okay, now I need to find 3 fourths, which is here. Well, which one is farther? The 3 fourths is farther, so we know that's the bigger one, so we know we're going to want that. We can also tell because our 8 is bigger than 4, and bigger means the opposite for the fraction. So 8 is bigger, which means the fraction is smaller. So the smaller part of this shape, this less than symbol, is facing the smaller number. The alligator teeth, or the bigger part of the symbol, are facing the bigger fraction. So remember, I need to come in here and actually type the symbol. I can't just draw it on there because it won't grade it that way. All right, next one, I'm going to pick a different color, is 4 fourths, which is all the way over here. It's that whole number line. And 4 eighths, which is right here in the middle. So 4 fourths is farther, so that's the bigger one. So my alligator teeth are going to face that bigger fraction. I also know that because 4 is smaller than 8. Because 4 is smaller, that means the opposite for the fraction is bigger. So smaller number means bigger fraction. So I'm going to put the greater than symbol. 4 fourths is greater than 4 eighths. All right, that brings us to our last one. Let me change colors again. We have 2 fourths, which is here in the middle. We have 2 eighths, which is over here. We can see 2 fourths goes farther than 2 eighths, so 2 fourths is bigger. We can also look at the denominator. 4 is smaller than 8, which means that's bigger. And I put 2 fourths is greater than 2 eighths. So it's a little bit challenging. You know, if you have a piece of notebook paper or scrap paper, you might want to write down somewhere what I wrote on the other slide, is that, you know, the smaller the denominator, the bigger the fraction. The bigger the denominator, the smaller the fraction. So it's kind of opposite. But now keep in mind that that rule only works when these top numbers are the same. So it only works when the numerators are the same. Then you use that bottom number to help you find the answer. So when you're done with the problem set, you're gonna come over and do the homework. Homework is set up the exact same way. First you write the fractions down and then compare them up here. Down here you label your number line and then you figure out where those points are on the number line to help you compare. Okay? So make sure that you log into Classkick and do that. I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for you. Remember, 10-minute timer. If you're still working on it, take a 5-minute break. If you come back to it and still can't figure it out, then you need to come into my office hours this week from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m., or you need to try to figure out a time to meet with me that works for you, because the test is going to be on Thursday. So if you do not have all of your homework caught up by this point, or you still don't understand something, it's kind of now or never if you need to get on and ask. Okay, so that's it for today. Remember, take a 5-minute break if you haven't finished yet. Make sure that you get back on or get with me because the test is Thursday.